Hello, flyers, riders, and writers. I hope you guys had no turbulence on your ride in. Thanks for joining me in the Tears of Fire podcast. We'll be going over a couple chapters in The Fire Within, the first book of the Last Dragon Chronicles. This is a pretty fun episode. We actually get to finish up the first part, which is labeled The Spark, and even get into the first chapter of part 2, The Fire Within. It's pretty fun because the beginning a little slow, just introducing a couple of the main characters, getting to know who they are and how they operate. And now part 2 is going to be starting in the next couple episodes. It's going to start to pick up. I remember a couple of things from this book. It has been over 15 years, so I don't remember everything, but there's going to be quite a few events that even I was surprised by reading when I was young, and that's what kept me sucked in, that, a series aimed for such a young audience would have the guts to write something of that type of consequence. So we're not going to get payoffs for, at least a couple months for you guys. It might be just a few weeks for me. We'll have to see how it goes. But if you guys are ready, let's get into it. Thanks for joining me. On to the show. We had left off last week with David and Liz talking about how the house is warm even though he notices no kind of heating system. Liz jokes that she's got central heating, and David looks around, doesn't see any radiators, any ducts, nothing that would indicate it. So now let's get into chapter 15, Sighting. A couple of days go by that were very chilly. David noticed Lucy going around placing dragons in different parts of the house. David still thinks that this is a running joke of the dragons keeping the house warm. One thing that I've noticed personally is it always seems to be raining in these books. I listened to this podcast, Aragon and Back Again, by Darian Smart and Lucy Hart. They're funny, great girls. Go listen to it. But they're always joking about how at the end of every chapter or at the beginning of every chapter, Aragon's either falling asleep or waking up or being knocked out and then having to wake up. Something along those lines. I feel like another running gag in these books is that it's just always raining. Whenever David is thinking or picturing his dragon, it's always on a windowsill that's raining, has rain splattered on the glass as well. If there's any event happening, you have to wait for the weather to clear up because it's been raining outside. I don't know if this is just a thing that's normal where this author lives. I know he's English, so might be just what he's used to, writing what he knows. I'm not used to it. I live in a high desert, so it's all dry here. We get a couple weeks of being wet, and that's it. One morning, David wakes up, and it's just past 8. He notices Lucy walking out to check the trap. He distracts her by knocking on the window, and she knocks down a few rocks, making some noise. She gets upset and asks what's going on. Before they can get too far into their conversation, they hear a ring at the door. And Lucy looks at David still in his pajamas and says, "Don't worry, I'll go check it. We don't want to scare away people." As David is starting to get his breakfast ready, he hears Bacon at the front door, booming voice saying, "Step aside, child. Where's the boy?" David comes to investigate and see what's going on. As he walks up, Mr. Bacon explains that he needs goggles because what he saw was a squirrel, not a rat, and belongs up a tree. Lucy starts to get very upset, thinking that Mr. Bacon has caught something. He's got a tuft of gray hair in his hands. And David's trying to be very calculated, very cool. He starts asking questions. Mr. Bacon says that he saw the squirrel up on his windowsill. David gets a little suspicious because he knows that a conker, a one-eyed squirrel, more than likely couldn't make it onto the windowsill or climb very high. So Lucy is getting even more upset, saying that Mr. Bacon needs to stop. David's trying to hush her, take over, and he just keeps asking questions, trying to confirm that this was Conker. And he asks, "How many eyes did the squirrel have?" Bacon gets upset and he says, "We've got 2 eyes, one on each side of his ratty nose," which then just sends Lucy off. She kicks the door and slams it right on Mr. Bacon's face. David freaks out, opens the door as fast as he can. You see Mr. Bacon dabbing his nose with a little handkerchief. David just says, "Let me handle this," pushes Lucy in, closes the door, and starts to walk Bacon back to his house. And he starts explaining to Bacon, like, "Hey, man, you know that this is no longer a rat. We can give this up, right? We don't need any more traps. No cause for concern." And Bacon actually goes the opposite direction, explains that squirrels are a scourge on gardens themselves, so we have to deal with this now. The faster that they sneer them, the better. Lucy can hear all of this, and that makes her even more upset. So as David's walking back in, she shoots him a look and says, "Let me handle this," and then shuts the door and locks him out too. David's trying to plead with her and bargain with her through the little mail slot, banging it open and shut each time he has to say something. Eventually, he has to agree to help her catch Conker as well, and says that they'll set their own trap right before they get caught by Liz. He says, "Let me in before your mom comes down." "Too late," says a voice behind him, and she's sitting there holding Lucy by the shoulders like a little hostage. It's the end of chapter 15. We can start to see that David's pretty invested at this point. It seems like he's going to be helping this squirrel one way or the other, whether it's just keeping Bacon away from it or actually setting a trap, which sounds like might be coming in the next couple chapters. So we'll have to see whose works a little. We'll have to see whose works faster. There's no real mention of dragons in this episode. It was mostly just them being placed back and forth, no interactions. At the end of the chapter, I guess I did forget that when David is sitting there looking at Mr. Bonnington, trying to think of a way to get rid of this trap, he says he needs to find something that even Liz will approve of. And Bonnington is playing in his sweater. He gets caught in it and kind of fighting it. David picks it up to untangle him, and he gets this idea. He looks at Mr. Bonnington and gets kind of a weird sly smile, saying, "By the end of today, you'll be a hero." It gives a little ominous feeling. I just love it. We don't know what's going on, but there's some shenanigans afoot. Chapter 16, Bonnington Disappears. Around 4 o'clock, Liz and Lucy are returning from getting Lucy at the end of school. They walk in to see the house completely clean. All the chores are done, dishes are cleaned, trash is taken out, even some mopped floors. Liz wonders what's going on, thinks things are a little suspicious, but David says that he tracked in a little mud and just got carried away on the cleaning up. Liz says, "Don't ruin it," and just keeps walking through the house. David then says he's also got tea on. Liz sits down to pour herself a cup, and David says he even tried to feed Bonnington, but he hasn't seen him. He doesn't seem to be around. Lucy shoots this look kind of to gives that, like, "You're dumb. Did you even try anything? Did you try shaking his food in his bowl?" David says no, gives a slight suspicious look over. So Lucy grabs Bonnington's treats and goes shaking it around the house. Takes a couple minutes, but she then comes back saying that he's nowhere to be found. So Liz goes, "All right, let's go check the garden." They walk outside, and as they start shaking the treats, you can hear a loud meowing from the other side, almost like someone's in danger, something's getting hurt. Lucy thinks that that's Bonnington and says, "Hold on, Mom, do that again." So they shake it, and they hear the loud squealing sound like something's being hurt or being trapped. And they hear it from next door at Mr. Bacon's house. Liz suspects what's happening and starts to get very upset that Mr. Bonnington might be trapped in Mr. Bacon's garden. They start to go over to the neighbor's house in perfect timing. Mr. Bacon seems to be getting off work and arriving just then. As he gets out, he tries to greet Liz. Nice. "Hello, Miss Pennycettle. How are you doing?" And Liz is already just furious. She tells him, "We need to be in your garden now. Go. If my cat's somewhere that he shouldn't be, we're going to have trouble." Mr. Bacon runs, to the back, unlocks his garden. They're all running to make sure that Bonnington's okay. And he's stuck inside of this trap. Luckily, there's no injuries to the cat. He just seems to be very upset that he's stuffed into this tiny little box for himself. Bacon seems confused on how this could even happen. He says it shouldn't happen. It's not designed this way. Bacon is worried because he can't see a way to get the cat out without breaking his trap. Liz says it doesn't matter, it needs to open it now. So David takes it upon himself to just crack open the door, get the squirrel out. Get the cat out. When he does, Bonnington takes a swipe over at David and runs back over to the penny kettles. And Liz picking up the cat, babying it, making sure that he's okay. He just snuggles in. Liz shoots over a mean look to Bacon and says to get rid of it. It no longer needs to be here. A squirrel's not worth this. And points at Bonnington. Liz picked him up and called him to make sure that he was okay. Then they all went back to the house together. Chapter 17, Birthday Ideas. This one's pretty short. David comes walking back into the house and he sees Bonnington getting pampered. Lucy's petting him and tells David that we have to be soft and careful because he's got a very low level of constipation. Liz chuckles a little bit and corrects her to constitution. He's very sensitive. David tries to give Bonnington a little treat, and Bonnington swipes at his hands and hisses. Liz thinks that's a little weird to do so close in together because David shouldn't have been the one to hurt him. David gets a little bit suspicious look, starts looking around, feeling like he needs to run away. Liz sends Lucy to start cleaning up for the day. When Liz and David are alone, Liz reminds David that it's going to be Lucy's birthday at the end of the week. And David starts thinking about what he's going to get for a present. He goes to hide in his room and starts to work on some missing work from college that he had for missing the day. And he just couldn't focus. He couldn't read. The words were all just mushing together. Then he looked at his computer and saw a paper that was partially written and got inspired. He said, I'll just write a story for Lucy. That'll be good. That'll be cheap. He doesn't have quite enough money to get a birthday present, but he figured this would be easy enough to go through print and throw something together over at school real quick for Lucy. And he knows that she'll love a story. So then he's looking for inspiration. He starts talking to Gadzooks. He picks him up and says, you're going to help me, right, buddy? Pictures him in his mind. He's like, I just need something. So Gadzooks takes out his pad and starts writing it in David's mind. Shows him as he flips it over. It just says, Nut Beast. David is confused by this too. Tries to ask what it means, but there's no response. It's just a faded image of the dragon. And that brings us to the end of the chapter. It's kind of cool to see somebody that's also starting his own little project, with him starting a book on this and not knowing where to begin, what the process even is. Very much reminds me of myself at the start of this thing. I do feel like it's been getting a little bit better, little by little, but it's still new, and there's tons that's going to be done from here and improved upon. So it was kind of nice to feel that connection with the main character as well. On to the next chapter. Chapter 18, The Wrong Squirrel. David and Lucy were alone in the afternoon. Liz had gone to see the dog man. Lucy explains that the dog man is where Liz goes whenever she has to get presents for her. Lucy then asks David if he's going to go see the dog man too. David just doesn't really say too much. He says he's going to have to think about it. Later on, Lucy busts in while he's working on her gift and says, We got him! We got him! David has to calm her down and say, Who is him? Lucy says, The squirrel. We caught a squirrel. And he's got a great big old smile. David gets a suspicious feeling and thinks that there's no way that this could be the squirrel that he had seen at the library, the one that he had named Snigger with Gadzooks. But Lucy is convinced. She just gets even more eager to go see, is pushing David out the door. And so they're trying to sneak up on him. The way that it's described in the book is they get on almost on all fours on their bellies and start scooting almost army style. As they're crawling up, they can hear the squirrel munching on the acorns that's in the trap. As they stumble a little bit, they hear rocks falling next to them, and the sounds completely stop in the cage. David tells Lucy to hold on. He grabs the cage, and they start to check it out. And sure enough, this squirrel has two eyes. It's not Conker. Lucy is a little disheartened, but realizes that there's more than one squirrel. David thinks that this is the squirrel that must have been on Henry Bacon's seal, kind of taunting him a little bit since he's able to climb. And Lucy's convinced that Snigger's here to help Conker, get him back to the gardens. David isn't so sure, but says that they need to let him go and it's time. So Lucy gets a little disheartened by having to let go of the squirrel, but David said that this is what they're doing. They're here to help the wildlife and help the squirrels. Once Lucy agrees, she slowly opens up the cage, and they watch it dart across the yard. And as they're sitting there, they are horrified to realize that it shoots into the house. I don't know if you guys have ever had a situation like this. I remember one time we had a bird that got caught in the house, and we had to keep the windows open and the doors open and try to scare it out. It's kind of like there's a scene on Modern Family where a bird gets in the house with Mitch. We didn't freak out quite that bad and break a bunch of stuff, but it was still a little freaky whenever you got something in your house that's not supposed to be there, even if it's a bug. I think everybody gets a little nervous. But thanks for joining me. Let's get into the next chapter. Chapter 19, Squirrel in the House. As they see this, they both jet into the house trying to catch it and make sure it doesn't do too much damage. Mr. Bonnington's on the floor, doesn't notice a thing when the squirrel first runs in, jumping on the walls, from the table, counters. He's peacefully just sitting there lapping up some water. Then once David and Lucy runs in, David slips, pushes his cat food all over, makes the cat litter spill a little bit as well. They're able to then corner the squirrel in David's room, of all rooms, and David finds one of his empty boxes from when he was unpacking and tries to catch him. He's banging the box on the walls, the beds, his desk, but he's just one step behind the squirrel each time. And Lucy's sitting there screaming behind him, trying to encourage him. Not really being much of a help, just being loud, but she's trying. Then something happened that David wasn't sure was a trick of his mind or him imagining things. He could have sworn when the squirrel jumped on the windowsill next to his dragon Gadzooks, the dragon winked at the squirrel. The squirrel seemed to look at him, register what's going on, chatter a little bit, as if to communicate back and forth with the dragon. David stops for a second. The squirrel then looks back at Lucy and David. Lucy gets a glint in her eye and tells her to help Conker. Please. The squirrel chirps one more time at her, looks at the dragon, chirps again, then jumps outside of the windowsill. At the end of this, Liz is sitting there tapping her foot in a little bit of disappointment. David says that they need to David hasn't turned around yet, but is starting to tell Lucy that they need to clean up and make sure that Liz doesn't find out. And Liz is sitting there tapping her foot and says it's too late. The end of chapter 19 brings us to the end of part 1 that was labeled The Spark. We're going to be starting chapter 20, part 2, that's labeled The Fire Within. And it's kind of nice now. We got the introductions out of the way. We've got a little bit of the premise that David's going to be writing a story about these squirrels that he's seen inside of the library gardens. He's heavily inspired and helped by a special dragon Gadzooks that was created by his landlady Liz Pennycettle as a little housewarming gift. David knows that there's something special with these dragons going on, but he's not quite sure what it is. He started having in what his ideas can only be described as dragon dreams, where him and Gadzooks can interact, but only for short seconds at a time. And for inspirations, it seems, when David is stuck on something and just needs a little bit of help. We've seen him name a character, we've seen him give a possible hiding place for the squirrel, and now we've seen him write the Nut Beast, which is going to be a pretty big part of David's story, it feels like. So now we're going to get into part 2, chapter 20, A Very Special Present. It's been a couple of days. At the end of the week was Lucy's birthday. Things in the house had been very solemn. Lucy starts to explain that all David does now is sit inside of his room and type, and type, and type, and type. She tells Liz that she might have been a little harsh on her, and Liz says all he had to do was clean up some kitty litter and promise not to hurt anything, that really there should have been more. Lucy's a little upset but helps set up her own birthday party as well. She's butthurt because she thinks that David forgot her birthday present and that he's not going to be there for the party either. A little bit later, all of her friends start showing up. They've all brought her presents. Some brought her books that they've read 100 times, they said. They're having a great time just eating cake, playing games, just being kids. Towards the end there, when the last kid had gone home, David gives a signal over to Liz, and Liz sends Lucy to the bathroom and tells her to clean up for the day. As Lucy was upstairs getting ready, Liz talks to David about him writing. David explains that writing is more like uncovering a mystery, that he has to follow where the characters and the plot wants to take him. It's already there, he just has to uncover it. Liz asks about a happy ending. She says that she's very sensitive. They had watched Bambi the week before, and she had spent the entire time crying. David gets a little funny feeling when Liz leaves, he looks at Bonnington and says she's talking about the dragons again. Huh. Bonnington just looked at him and meowed. When she comes down from getting ready, there's a chair in the living room decorated with balloons, party rafters, and a little name tag that says Storyteller's Chair. David says that this is just a start and that she'll have to wait for Christmas for the rest, but this is for her. Gives her the title Snigger and the Nut Beast, created by David Rain and Gadzooks, for Lucy, age 11, as of today. Lucy gets extremely excited and asks what a nut beast is. David laughs and just says, "That's the start. We'll have to figure it out." Alright, guys, that was just the beginning to part 2, and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm starting to get excited myself. The story is now starting to remind me of why I got into it. It's going to start picking up very quick. Events seem to be going one right after the other. A lot of setup. Things are going to be going a lot faster from here on out. It's going to be fun and kind of a wild journey, so I hope you guys are ready. When you guys got time, I'd love to hear about the series that got you guys into reading. You know, once I started reading this, I was super sucked into dragons. So there was Aragon, there were the Percy Jackson series. Those weren't necessarily dragon centered, but they had enough fantasy slash cryptid animals in there that it kept my attention. I don't know, it's not that big of a series, well known, but Eon, Dragon Eye Reborn is a great one. That's only a 2-book. They're pretty thick, but if you're looking for another one that's got a good original idea on how dragons are portrayed, that's a great one as well. A couple of other ones uh, a couple of other ones as well. I like the Maze Runner series, the Hunger Games series, the Giver series, if you guys have ever read that. I know you read the first one, at least we did in middle school, and I was super intrigued, found out that it was actually a 4-book series, ended up reading the rest of it. So I'd love to hear what got you guys into reading, what you guys are currently reading, what this story reminds you of, anything of that nature. If you guys have any comments, questions, suggestions, you guys know the email. It's Gadzooks, the last DM at gmail.com. Love to hear from you guys. Thanks for joining. I hope you guys have a safe flight back and hit no turbulence. Have a good one.